Hey, welcome to 604 Seconds, a podcast created by local youth worker voices for local youth workers in the Lower Mainland. Join us for 10 minutes and 4 seconds as we engage in conversation about the continued pursuit of unity in the church, intentional relationship, and student empowerment for real-world discipleship. For more information on upcoming events and even connecting with youth pastors on the third Thursday of the month in one of the city hubs, be sure to visit 604.network.
Hey everybody, welcome to 604 Seconds. We've been doing this podcast for a couple of months now, and the whole point of it is to address different people doing youth ministry here in the Lower Mainland as we work through as a network of youth pastors and youth leaders about student empowerment, working together, those sorts of things. So glad you're part of this conversation. And today I have my good friend Tim Gonzalez with me, and we're going to start the timer. My intro doesn't count towards the 604 seconds, so I get to just start it now.
Oh, amazing.
But tell us who you are and what you're doing in youth ministry these days.
Yeah, super stoked to be here. And I am Tim. I live in Langley, and I'm the National Youth Director for Alpha Canada. And been doing youth ministry for, it's probably been almost 15 years. And I was a youth pastor for 10 years and been at Alpha here for 5 years now. And just trying to help young people reach their friends with the good news of Jesus is what my goal is here in Canada. So
Super
it's
great.
awesome.
Sounds like you have the right job. So I would love to ask you, I'll give you the floor in a bit more of a blank way. As you look at the country, honestly, and not even just the Lower Mainland, but as you look at the country, what is the thing that's on your heart the most? What do you see as the biggest, I don't want to be negative, but like the biggest alarm bells going off as we look at the face of youth ministry in our country? And you travel around talking to a lot of people, and you have a good bead on the research. I know the renegotiating faith stuff has been a big part of your guys' journey at Alpha. And I'd be curious to know, as you look at our country, what is the main thing that you're passionate about right now? And I would imagine that whatever you're passionate about is somewhat pertinent, and so maybe you can share what that is.
Yeah, thanks. I think for me, it's actually been something that has always been in my heart, but I don't think hasn't been as fired up as it is these days.
Okay, good, yeah.
And I think it's around the idea of helping young people share the gospel and make disciples. Now, as soon as I say that, a lot of us are like, yeah, we know that's youth ministry.
Yeah.
But I actually think it is the key component of youth ministry today. I think it is essential. And what kind of alarmed it for me was during the pandemic, through a variety of conversations, there was a lot of feedback that has come through around youth pastors saying, hey, it's obviously a really tough season. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but we're noticing things like mental health being a huge issue with young people.
Sure.
So therefore, instead of helping my students reach their friends, I need to spend time helping just disciple them, they would say. Or maybe the youth pastors would say things like, well, I'm just trying to care for my own students. They got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. And what we've done is we've actually created, I think, a bit of a false dichotomy of discipleship and mission. Okay. And what we've done is we've parsed it out. But I actually think discipleship and mission are so integrated. In fact, I think I would go as far to say, and it might be a bit of a tension, is that mission causes discipleship to happen. And I think one of the core, if not the core components of a healthy youth ministry is a youth ministry that is helping kids understand the partnership of them being in the kingdom, advancing the kingdom, and seeing their friends come to know Christ, which we would call discipleship.
Good. Okay. We found our tension already that we're going to now spend the rest of our time on easily. So you're saying that without a framing of mission, that discipleship is seriously encumbered, like it takes a hit. And so that's a controversial thing to say, because I definitely have fallen into the idea too, and I think for good reason sometimes, is that I look at the students that I have and I go, they're not ready to be on mission yet. Yeah. I have to take care of them and I have to disciple them. And the dichotomy ends up becoming really, really potent of going, one day my disciple is going to be enough to make a disciple.
Right.
So convince me about the essential nature of making disciples and being one.
Yeah.
It seems like as soon as we pull those apart, it becomes more and more less and less biblical and less following in Jesus. I would agree with you. Yeah. In principle, I agree with the theology behind not pulling it apart. And yet in practice, how do you maintain the tension of going, we have to make disciples, while knowing that there's still a long road ahead for the person that we just asked to go make a disciple? How do you do that in youth ministry? How do you live in the tension of that?
Totally. Real quickly, last week I was with a group of my buddies that I grew up with in high school. 10 of them, all of us went to the same youth group together, same youth worker, same environment and culture, and here they were. And I've been praying for God to like continue to give me some friends that I can do ministry with, people that are like-minded, doing the stuff, the great ministry people. And I looked out and I felt like the Lord really convict me as I looked out at my group of 10 friends, all of them just hockey dudes, just classic Langley bros.
Langley beer league.
And they're just buds, but they love their wives, they love the Lord, but they have no mission in their life, so they think. And I look out and I felt like the Spirit just convict me and say, who did Jesus choose to be his closest followers, his plan for the world?
Right.
It wasn't this group of well put together religious elite. It was the hockey bros, it was the jabronis, the people that were the bottom of the list.
Sure.
And I looked out and it reminded me that when we look at youth ministry, and I look at even my youth ministry experience, my youth pastor was incredible, but he took a lot of time and poured into me and gave me opportunity, and it was amazing. And I think the fruit of that was that now I'm fully involved and have been doing ministry since that time. But I look at my friends 15 years later, and they don't have a vision for what making disciples looks like. They don't have a vision for mission looks like.
Okay.
But they had a great experience of attending a great youth group, and for all they knew, youth group was for them, but they didn't realize that youth group was actually the training ground for a lifetime of ministry. And so I share that story just to encourage us that I don't think when it comes to creating healthy youth ministries that we are pulling out fun. We're not saying we're going to pull away from like the typical frameworks of youth ministry, but I think it comes down to asking the question are your students there to just know God and have a great time and feel safe, or are they there literally to be equipped for a lifelong pathway of partnering with Jesus in the kingdom? Do they know that they're there to be equipped, or are they there because they are being served? And we know when we just look at the text as Jesus invited us to, we know it's a command to make disciples. We know that he said that he came to serve, not be served. And so are we training our students with the exact same framework that Jesus is inviting us into?
Yeah, good question. So as quick as you can, what have you seen as you looked around the country, even here in our own city? What are things that you've seen youth pastors do to plant that niggling feeling in the hearts of every one of their students going, oh, this is something bigger than me. Oh, I'm here to be loved, certainly, but like it's unto something. And that's not a betrayal of me being loved. It actually helps me need this more. Like, what have you seen? How have you seen youth pastors succeed, even in some small way, in implanting that? And then if you have time, how have you seen that shape that disciple, right? And I don't know if you say, it's not like a best practices tricks, but like,
no, totally.
How have you seen this happen? Have you seen it happen anywhere? If so,
definitely. The first thing that comes to mind is some of the most missional or discipleship-based youth ministry I've seen is they've trained their students to hear the voice of the Good Shepherd for themselves. I think hearing the voice of the Lord is an imperative, because as they hear his voice and know his voice, they'll then know that, one, they're loved as adopted sons and daughters, but then two, they'll know where they shall go to. Who are they called to? What does that look like? And then they'll begin to hear things like the Father's heart for their friends and that what the mission field can look like. So knowing and teaching the voice of the Lord, I think, is imperative.
That. Wow. Yeah,
Second
great.
is, this is something I've seen in your life, Jonathan, and the ministry stuff that you've done, is giving students just an opportunity to try something, giving them a tool so that, one, they need to then rely on that voice, but then two, so that they can learn and make mistakes and grow. And so I think we're sometimes a little bit ambiguous. We'll say things to our students like, go and reach your friends. Yeah. But I actually think it's very unkind to send students out to do things without the actual tools. That's why when Jesus did it, he showed them first. He actually did it with them, and then he would work with them them on it. Let's say things like, this thing only comes out with prayer and fasting, this type of demon, this type of work. And there's tricks of the trade that actually is what we would call the apprenticeship model, right? And so I think actually modeling it and showing it is huge. And then lastly, I just think there's so many practical things around actually training and equipping students on your regular nights, rather than necessarily parsing out the youth ministry to say, these are our just our core kids and they're really doing it. But what does everyday obedience? And I think maybe this is a bit of a biased heart, but I think in this season, I'd love to see the everyday ordinary Christian student be treated and trained and coached as like Jesus treated and trained and coached the everyday ordinary disciple, which is, you don't have it together. You're probably going to doubt me. You're probably going to lie and cheat and steal still. But I've got a call on your life to advance and partner with me in the kingdom. So I'm going to equip you to do this, and I'm going to believe that the Spirit is going to be upon you to do that. And so I think it's believing in students. It's giving them opportunities and tools to actually experiment with stuff. And then just a whole lot of prayer over things. We love hearing stories of students praying, writing down names of their friends on cards to pray for, praying over their yearbook, doing different prayer initiatives. But those are a few that come to mind.
Amazing. Those are great insights. We're going to have to chat again and hash a few of those things out. That's great. I hope that discussion was helpful for you. And as you chat in your hubs or you think it through yourself, you can be thinking through what are some of the things that Tim's have said that maybe you can employ to embed that in your students, and don't talk about it alone. Share those kinds of things and share the wrestles that you have with your friends in ministry going, how do I do this and how do we do this together? So thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Tim, for your time.
My pleasure.